Vamos a comenzar con el anuncio de clasificados y acto seguido con la final en inglés. El resultado de las semifinales en castellano lo anunciaremos después de la final en inglés y procederemos a la final acto seguido, ¿vale? There's two rooms. First, I'm gonna announce E1, then E2. So first, in E1, we had La Vaca Paca against Professional Takers. It was a very tough debate, and in the end, the judges decided that the team going through to the final is La Vaca Paca. Okay. Please, we're going to start with the final in English. Vale, vamos a comenzar, por favor. Voy a presentar al jurado un segundo. Habitualmente presentamos individualmente a todos los miembros del jurado porque es digno de reconocer a las personas que están aquí y han hecho un gran esfuerzo por juzgaros durante 2 días y contribuir con un poquito de su tiempo y de su fin de semana para ayudar y contribuir a una competición como esta, pero como son muchos y podéis ver, no voy a presentarles individualmente, pero sí voy a decir 2 cosas de ellos. La primera es que es un equipo de profesionales extraordinario que en la actualidad son de los jueces y de los debatientes más reconocidos a nivel nacional e internacional en competiciones de debate universitario. Y la segunda, que me hace particular ilusión, es que de las 14 personas que están juzgando la final en esta competición, hay 11 de ellas que han competido en la Liga CICAE durante los últimos 8 años, cual refuerza mi mensaje sobre la importancia de lo que construimos aquí a largo plazo y de que en el futuro seáis vosotros los que toméis estas sillas juzgando a quienes vengan después de vosotros dentro de 5 años. Presidirá el panel Miguel Casanova, que hará las veces de director de la final en inglés, y sin más dilación le cedo la palabra para que pueda proceder al sorteo.
So please, the captain of the team in favor and against could approach the table.
Against.
In favor. Thank you so much.
Against.
greatness is measured by its ability to recognize and foster equality among all its community. Good afternoon, my name is Miriam, and I'm the introducer of the team that is completely in favor of the question raised in the debate. Should the Spanish government implement a single national about for the whole country? Well, we answer with a resounding yes. Yes, because if we want to give the students of our country the best conditions and opportunities to enter the university they want, this is the right way to do it. Because we are going to make that the students compete between each other for their academic skills. If you will grant this team the passion to show how this is the most appropriate measure, we will proceed to define the most important term that set us the question in the debate. First of all, according to RAE, implement is to put into operation or apply methods or measures to carry out something. Therefore, we understand implement to mean that this single national law is not going to be applied this year or the following one, but it will be progressively be applied so that every student has the correct syllabus and the teachers with the knowledge required with these exams that has a different content than the previous ones. Having stated the term that is important to the debate question, I will give way to our line of arguments composed of two solid and strong arguments. Our first one, equality argument, in which we will expose that the equal opportunities to enter the university that this policy will bring. And our second argument, lack of effectiveness. That shows a way in which we can have a fair eval for everyone the same and also remain with the cultural differences between communities and provinces that we have. To begin with, our equality argument expose that the implementation of a single eval will bring every student from Spain the same chances to enter the university they want. Right now, this isn't that way. We're taking more into account in this moment where a student came from, their postal code, instead of their knowledge in the subject, instead of how much they have been prepared. And this is unfair. We have to change it because the preparation for the exams is the things that we have to take into account, not their background. Having said our equality argument, we move on to the second one, lack of effectiveness. Right now, the Spanish baccalaureate system, approximately 50–60% depending on the autonomous community of the curriculum, consists of coursework, smaller exams, and day-to-day tasks, completely over the 2 years of bachillerato. The remaining 40–50% comprises the actual eval exam. One solution is to maintain different contents for those small exams during the two courses, making it possible for each community to have their respective syllabus. But the VIII, which is the most critical exam for a student's academic journey, will be standardized nationwide and centrally regulated by the state. In this way, we will simultaneously maintain the province-specific cultural elements in the coursework assessment as the national single eval for all the students of Spain. In conclusion, we will argue that implementing a single national eval for all the Spanish territory is an adequate and necessary measure to reach the best conditions for our students to get access to the university they want. Our line of arguments composed of two arguments. Our first one, which is the quality argument, and our second one, which is the lack of effectiveness. Our team, accompanied by our arguments, answer with our standing yes. Thank you very much.
evidence throughout this debate. Therefore, establishing a unique eval will only create an unequal exam which students from an autonomous community with a lower level will not be able to match up to, whilst others from a community with a higher level will find incredibly easy. The current eval, however, achieves to match the difficulty of the exam to the level of the students of that community, providing adjusted and equal exams. In our second argument of benefits, we argue that the implementation of a single eval would eliminate all the necessary benefits that come from having different evals. In Spain, we pride ourselves on the different culture and history that our country has. Having different evals enables communities to teach the students their language and heritage, allowing them to further explore and understand their own identity. Moreover, having different exams gives students who would have not had the chance otherwise the opportunity of receiving higher education. This only benefits the social and economic development of our country, as we will further explain in this argument. In our last argument of politics, we defend that this measure is unfeasible in today's political scenario. The Spanish Constitution regards the rights of communities to promote their culture and teach their language. However, with a centralized eval also comes a centralized curriculum, which means that communities would no longer have this right to decide their youth's education. Taking into account the current political tensions like the recent independence movement of Catalonia or the approval of the amnesty, it is not the right moment to implement this measure. This unification of an eval would only raise political tensions where communities will be offended by their deprival of their constitutional rights. Having said all of this, the only possible answer to the question posed in this debate, should the Spanish government implement a single national eval, is a firm and resounding no. And we will prove this throughout this debate thanks to our three solid arguments of equity, benefits, and politics, backed by our thesis, which states that a single national eval is inviable and would eliminate all equity and benefits guaranteed by the current system. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Pablo, and today I will be serving as the first rebuttal of the team position completely in favor of the stated question. Should the Spanish government implement the same eval exam for the whole Spanish territory? Some of the opposing team's arguments, and later on I would like to step aside and go on to construct our own. First of all, they talk about equity, and yeah, that's true. The different regions have differences between and regarding economical factors. Well, yeah, but like in the question itself, it does not mention a temporal frame. What it's saying is it does not mention a temporal frame, meaning that these economical aspects could be later on stabilized and balanced. And therefore, our solution, which would be basically represent the fairness and more reasonable Spanish educational system, would still stand and be effective. Later on, they also talk about the cultural argument and trying to represent their cultural identity. And yeah, that's also true. It's very important to do that, but it can be demonstrated throughout other means, and which will be explored throughout our second argument, which will be explained right now. First of all, now, after refuting some of their arguments, now I would like to demonstrate and construct our own. First of all, we have the argument of equality. Well, this argument, firstly, I would like to state that the debate surrounding Spain's university entrance exam is known as the eval, and it isn't just an academic chatter. It's about fairness and equal opportunity for all students. Here's the deal. Currently, the exams vary in difficulty across the different provinces. That's like playing a game where some players have tougher challenges than others. Where's the fairness in that? And it undermines the principle of equality and in education. Consider this. Students in some provinces face harder exams, but in the end, they're all expected to meet the same requirements for a university admission. That's like, so even if you aced a tough exam, you still held to the same standard as someone who had easier. Where's the fairness in that? For instance, in this evidence, you can see that in the Spanish map, for instance, in Madrid, there's a percentage of getting excellent grades of 10%, and whereas in Canarias, there's like a 20% of getting excellent grades. You see the difference? That for me is not fairness. Moreover, as you can see, we could also talk about the meritocracy, which basically points out this argument, since that's the idea that people should be rewarded based on their abilities and not and efforts, not their background nor where they were born. Day-to-day exams and smaller exams. Tasks completed over the 2 years of bachillerato, and then the remaining percent is 40 to 50% approximately, and comprises the actual exam. This division raises pertinent questions regarding its fairness and purpose. So why this disparity? One proposed solution that we propose is to maintain the current structure of awarding a percentage, but of the diploma based on classwork and ongoing assessments. But what we're suggesting is to incorporate the cultural nuances that are deemed essential within each province, and within the 60% of the diploma baccalaureate. Meaning the VAL, arguably the most critical exam in a student's academic journey, would not be standardized and nationwide and centrally regulated by the state. Implementing this adjustment in our educational system could lead to greater equity by standardizing the VAL. All students would face the same examination, ensuring fairness, consistency, and in evaluating their academic capabilities, simultaneously by retaining their province-specific cultural elements in the coursework assessment. The educational system respects and economy as well, since it would force in a direct way many provinces to develop in terms of their capabilities, and try to adapt to the situation of the most developed sections of Spain, for instance. This would improve the situation of Spain and balance it, and therefore, in some way, this could also avoid many social conflicts within the country itself. And also, it would stabilize the economy, and despite we might have a high inversion but gradual, since it does not in the question it does not represent a temporal frame, this actually could be actually very beneficial for us and improve our economical situation incredibly. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sofia Avila, and I'm the first rebuttal of the team that's positioned against the question posed in today's debate. Prior to explaining our own argumentative line, I would first like to rebuttal the opposing team's first argument, their equality argument, where they defend equal opportunities for all students. Well, first of all, I'm going to pose a question. Can we treat equally students that are unequally educated? This clashes directly with our argument of equity, because we're talking about equity, not equality. This option that they are proposing is simply not viable, because as we are going to explain in our equity argument, not all communities can invest the same amount of money. And since the level of education of investments is directly related to the level of education, this will set students who are simply born in a community that cannot invest the same amount of money as another one at a disadvantage to obtain higher education. So this is counterproductive, because this is just highlighting social differences and impeding people from getting out of from achieving higher education. Moreover, the inequality that they are exhibiting does not even affect the students which supposedly have a higher exam. As we can see in this evidence by Statistica, we can see that students from Comunidad de Madrid, País Vasco, and Navarra, who have supposedly higher exams, do not are the students that have the highest matriculation rates in university. So this inequality does not even affect the students. Now I'm going to move on to our own argumentative line. First, we bring an argument of equity, as I have mentioned, which highlights that it is unarguable that the education level amongst different communities differs. Taking a look at this graph that represents the PISA scores obtained by the different autonomies, it is clearly seen how the academic level of different communities is different. This is mainly due to the fact that each autonomous community cannot afford to invest the same amount of funds. This graph, developed by the Ministry of Education, shows the amount of money per capita invested in education, that it widely varies among different regions. Interestingly enough, communities where lower amounts of money are invested, such as Andalusia, also have the lower PISA scores, while others, like the Basque Country, where more money is invested, have higher scores, and therefore a higher academic level. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot expect that every community choose the contents taught. Each community can decide to educate their students on topics relevant to their community and culture. For example, in the Basque Country, the history curriculum compromises various topics that are specific to the community, as we can see in the official syllabus, which is crucial to the identity of these students. This increases plurality in our country, enriching our culture. A unified EVAU would eliminate the possibility of students learning more about their roots and history. Additionally, different EVAUs, as explained in our first argument, enable students independent of their community to have higher access to a higher level of education. This benefits us in the long run, both socially and economically. It allows for more educated citizens who will work in better paying jobs, which brings two benefits: increasing the amount of money raised, since these people are gonna probably obtain better paying jobs, they're gonna pay higher taxes, and therefore we can reinvest more money into education. And secondly, reducing social inequalities, helping these people that come from communities which can invest less money also obtain higher levels of education. According to this report published by Oxfam, equal access to higher education contributes to eliminating social and economical gaps. Therefore, unifying the EVAU would eliminate all of these necessary benefits. Thirdly, we bring a political argument, where we will defend how this measure is unfeasible in today's scenario. Article 148 of the Spanish Constitution recognizes the basic rule of each autonomous community or city in Spain and its power of autonomy. It is established that action communities may assume competencies in the promotion of its culture and teaching of its languages. Therefore, a single EVAU would decrease or interfere with these powers, which is counterproductive. Taking into account that the current political scenario for country is comprised by very highly political tensions between different communities, taking their opportunity to take their own eval will worsen these tensions. Frankly, would pose a conflict bigger than we can handle. For example, when Catalonia organized a referendum for their independence in 2017, the national police impeded the voting from taking place. As we all remember, this led to multiple violent riots that worsened the regional divisions in Spain, interfering with a community's regional and cultural affairs.
The opposing team brought to us at the beginning a balloon filled with simple air. We propose to fill this balloon with helium to then make Spain fly. Hi, my name's Lorenzo, and I'm going to be serving as the second rebuttal for the team position completely in favor of the question asked in today's debate. Should the Spanish government implement the same eval exam for the whole of the Spanish territory? We respond with an obvious yes. So firstly, I would like to begin by clarifying our thesis statement. An exam is the key to young people's future, and to have its difficulty be determined simply by where you live and your postcode goes against human rights and sparks inequality. Firstly, I will begin by refuting their arguments and then responding to what the first rebuttal has said to ours. So the opposition brings to us 3 arguments, although I ask, do you bring to us a 4th one about economics, because you keep mentioning economy and in no way do you have an economic argument? So their first one about equity is based on giving help to those who need more resources, but I'm sorry to say the world does not just help by giving people who struggle academically more resources. People have to work to get into the to gain a higher level of academic influence. Also, those levels of academic skills in communities that you have mentioned, and the fact that maybe you mentioned that in Madrid people are maybe more academically bright than in other other autonomous communities, is due to that difference in the eval exam that we are seeing, because people are preparing for a harder exam, and this is quite obvious. Then their second argument on benefits, I asked, what benefits do you actually bring? Because you bring one which would be cultural or social benefits, but this is completely refuted with our second argument on lack of stability. You also bring to the table the fact that the culture or the identity of that autonomous community that in which the eval exam is being tested will be lost. But actually, is culture education for you guys? Because I think culture is seen in many other aspects, like politics, books, history. It's not like if you take maybe the Catalan out of a Catalan eval exam, Catalan will just be lost forever. Also, you bring to us within the benefits an economic aspect. But to this, I say to you, obviously change costs money. It's not like we're just going to change the eval exam and it's going to be free. I mean, maybe, okay, lack of effectivity, because you mentioned the Constitution, and it is in no way being broken with what we suggest. We suggest that 60% of the baccalaureate diploma, which is in Spain right now, which is based on coursework and maybe other smaller exams across the year, is what has the cultural aspect. And then that 40%, which is the actual eval exam, we can take the culture out of that. And that 40%, which is the eval exam, that's what this debate is focused on, right? It's not focused on the baccalaureate program. Then now for our arguments, responding to what they have said, I want to clarify again that my introductory statement clearly stated that this implementation which we are presenting is gradual. So therefore, the economic argument which you bring to the table is completely irrelevant. And then we also suggest equal opportunities when it comes to entering university, which I think is a basic human right for all. And we also represent equal exam difficulty across Spain. I don't think people in Madrid want to have a more difficult exam than people in the Canary Islands. Their only rebuttal to this was to say that can we treat equally students that are unequally educated? I asked you, why are they being unequally educated though? I mean, in the first place, because they have to prepare for a more difficult exam. That is why they are being unequally educated. If we change that gradually over time, educated the professors and maybe economically influence the education system, this change could be made. Yes, your question. I mean, it's obvious with these evidences that I bring to the table that it's evidently harder. I mean, okay, you're saying that that the fact that it's harder is the only thing, but what is an exam? An exam is hard. It's the key to your life, and I believe that if one is harder than the other, that's basically limiting your options for the future. Opposite. Then in red we can see the autonomous communities that allow people to attend the AVAO exam having failed, and in gray the opposite. And
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Priscila Gonzalez, and I am the second rebuttal of the team positioned against of the question posed in today's debate. During my intervention, I would first like to rebuttal the opposing team's argument, and then I will move to reconstruct our own argumentative line. The opposing team brings us two arguments.
they basically say that the current system is not effective. However, they have not really said why it's not effective, so we can't really judge that. And as we have said in our own argument of benefits, which clashes directly with this argument, we are seeing how there are many benefits associated with having 17 different evaluations, and therefore we are seeing how it is in fact effective, because it ensures that students who don't have the same opportunities as others, just because their community has lesser resources and lesser income that is invested in education, that they also can have an access to education. And they bring a model in which they say that culture can be taught in baccalaureate too. This is true, but ladies and gentlemen, it is not enough only to have it in the baccalaureate maintain this cultural plurality in Spain. Your question. Well, although there are large margins that come from this, you have not proven how big of a problem these margins actually suppose. See, we have already evidenced that this is not really that big of a problem, and it is only benefiting the students that whose evaluations adapt to their level and adapt to their needs, so they can access this higher education. Now, moving on to reconstruct our own argumentative line. We bring two arguments. An argument of equity, where we have proven that due to the economical inequalities and the amount of money that communities can invest per capita in education, the academic level differs accordingly. And to this, they've said that economical inequalities can be balanced in the future, but well, this is a very blunt assumption that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And they also say that this will force communities to have the same curriculum, and which will lead to economical benefits, but there's really no causation nexus behind those statements, so we can't really take that into account. But they've also said something that is relevant. They said that having the same exam would standardize the level of the test and therefore increase educational levels. But ladies and gentlemen, we cannot expect communities to teach the same contents when they don't have the same resources to do so. As we have shown in this graph developed by the Ministry of Education, the amount of income invested per capita in education differs. So we cannot expect communities to have the same level of education when they don't have the same resources and they don't have the same, the money is different between each community. Now, moving on to our second argument of cultural benefits. I'll first like to, well, there's been a misunderstanding to our economic point, and I'd like to clear that. So we say that having a single eval brings economical benefits because it allows students that don't have the opportunity to go to higher education otherwise to reach university level education. And therefore, these students and more students can have better jobs and higher paying jobs, which will lead to more taxes in the future. And this is just basically the benefits of our, the economical benefits that this having one single eval bring, and therefore the answer of the question is no. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen. My name is Laura de la Horra, and today I'll be the concluder of the team just completely against the question posed in today's debate. During my intervention, I'll first explain how my team has rebutted the other team's arguments, and then I'll move on to explaining why our own arguments are still standing. So the as my team has also said, it is not enough to study these different subjects during baccalaureate, since teachers will give them less importance, and as well as that, we can't ensure that students are actually learning these cultural elements if they don't have an exam to prove that they have actually learned them, which in this case is the eval. Moving on to our own arguments, we've brought 3 arguments. In our first argument of equity, they said that the economical factors can change in the future, and that a unique eval will force communities to adapt their level. To their first point, the second rebuttal of my team said that this is a very open assumption. We don't know when these economical factors will be adjusted, or if they ever will be. And to their second point, as the second rebuttal of my team said, we cannot expect communities to teach the same level of education. Due to the current political situation of Spain, this implementing a unique eval is simply not viable right now. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Vicky, and before concluding the debate, I would like to thank the judges, the organizers, and the audience for making the debate possible. Regarding the presented question, should the Spanish government implement the same eval exam for all the Spanish territory? We have responded with a firm yes. The opponent team has defended the against posture with 3 arguments. The first one based on equity. They say that not all autonomous communities can spend as much money in education right now. This is why we are proposing
qué enfocas, pues, si la chica se puede mover, si se mueven, tú lo mueves a esto.
Yo solo hago, o sea,
A eso me refiero.
claro, por ejemplo, si él se levanta,
A eso me refiero. Sí.
le hago el seguimiento y luego hago
Exactamente.
acercamiento, pero ya está.
Que no está fijo.
No, no,
Este
tranquilo.
movimiento.
Sí, sí. Claro, ahora
Ahora vemos si pasamos.